Hi everyone, it's Paul and welcome to my video for day one of the 2024 Cheltenham Festival. As I record this, we are now half an hour shy of being just 24 hours away from the best 4 days of the year for National Hunt fans, that's for certain. As I said in my video posted yesterday, this is my 15th consecutive year doing these videos. When I started it, I guess the dream was someone at the time from Channel 4 when the racing was on there, or ATR or Racing UK would go, do you know what, we'll hire him. Sadly, that never happened, but I've still got you guys, so thanks as always for coming back. So only one thing to do, let's crack on. Day one, the 1:30, as always, kicking off the festival is the Supreme Novice Hurdle. It's a grade 1 over 2 miles. My favourite part of the week, that roar. I love the roar on day one from the crowd to send them on the way. Now, this is a fascinating Supreme Novice this year because the whole market has been dominated by what Ballyburn was going to do. He's been the long odds-on favourite for this for a long time now, and it very much looked like this was his target. He was entered, as Mullins seems to do with practically every horse he has. He has to be entered in every race he physically can get his hands on. And it's quite bizarre because, do you know what? After watched him win at the Dublin Racing Festival, I remember thinking, this is definitely more of a stayer. I hope he goes the Birmingham Bingham. Even though all the markets pointed to the Supreme Novice last week, Mullins played his hand and he goes to the Bingham. So I was quite happy about that. But I tell you what, this is one of the most competitive renewals of this race I've seen for a while, so we're just going to dive straight in. The favourite now is still with Willie Mullins, surprise, surprise. In fact, the top two in the market are, but Tully Hill, as I record this, is the market leader for Willie Mullins. Paul Townend, who you would imagine would have had the pick of some of the Mullins horses, has picked this one. This horse is 2 for 3 over hurdles, with his only loss coming over 2 miles 6, I think it was, in soft heavy ground. Clearly didn't stay that day, travelled well, 2 out, he just stopped dead, didn't stay 2 mile, end of story. But the manner in which he won his latest was incredible. He travelled and jumped amazing. Now, as everyone knows, I'm like a student of form, as it will be. My bigger concern here is this horse has never won above listed level, and this is a grade 1. His time was incredible last time. The way he jumped was amazing. And these are young horses in the Supreme Novice, so there's clearly more to come. That's the only thing that slightly is the nagging doubt in the back of my mind. Willie Mullins also has the second favourite as well, but we'll see this as a reoccurring theme this week, and that is the JP McManus own Mystical Power. Mark Walsh taking the ride. Obviously, he's the retained rider for JP. This horse has done absolutely nothing wrong. For 3 in his career, including 2 out of 2 over hurdles. Won a Group 2 latest. What I would say is his jumping was right. People were saying he was making mistakes. I don't think he was necessarily making mistakes. I would call him very, very novice-y. But despite the novice-y jumping, he was so strong at the end. And this horse has clearly got more to come, I would say. I've got no doubt about it. So it wouldn't surprise me if these favourites flip-flop, because we know the Cheltenham crowd, they love a JP McManus horse. I suppose over 2 mile, it brings back memories of the likes of Isterbrack and Binocular for those types. So, I think these two might flip-flop. Firefox has always been in and around 4-5 to 1 in the last week or so for this one for Gordon Elliott. Jack Kennedy takes the ride. Been consistent money for him. No massive move, but just coming in half a point. So he's clearly got his supporters. What I would say is he was beaten nearly 9 lengths. I think it was by Ballyburn last time in a grade 1, and this is a grade 1 again. Is he capable of stepping forward again? Absolutely he is. Will he do it? That's another question. But based on the ratings and that defeat there, I think he has to find about another £8 here today, or Tuesday, I should say. The question is, will he do it? And until he get on the track, there's no way of really knowing. Slade Steele, Henry de Bromhead, Rachel Blackmore. You've got to be careful of everything Henry de Bromhead sends to the festival. It's like the horses gain another leg when they come to Cheltenham. He always has them absolutely bang on. This horse has been slightly below, I would say, the top ratings of the ones in the market here from Ireland. But it's still a very, very classy horse. And as I said, Henry de Bromhead, the step forward another level at Cheltenham. My slight concern I have with this one is a comment that was made about 6 weeks ago. And they basically said, Slade Steele, oh, we're going to have to figure out where Ballyburn's going and we won't oppose him. I'm not a massive fan when you run scared of a horse, especially at novice level. And that seems to be a little bit what they did here. They just didn't want to know. He was entered at this one, I believe, over 2.5. Even I don't know if he was in the Ballymore. I'm not sure. But certainly over the 2.5 Birmingham Bingham and this one. And they've been plotting a route based around avoiding Ballyburn. Now, very good horse. And you can, obviously, right towards the top of the market. But that, again, just a little nagging feeling on that one. But for the selection, we are taking a bit of a risk here. Not on the horse, I'll explain that now, not on the horse, but on the Nicky Henderson yard. The selection, currently at 9-1, is Jericho de Repenay for Nicky Henderson. Nico de Boinville takes the ride. I think, to be honest with you, the jockey bookings, I think the Mark Walsh would have picked Mystical Power anyway, but bearing in mind Walsh is Irish, rides for Mullins, it kind of makes sense for him to ride Mystical Power with Nico de Boinville riding for his boss, Nicky Henderson. So, and also on the flip of that, if you look at the cap colours, the first string is to be carried by Jericho de Repenay, which is the white cap, and the second string, shall we call it, colours of the green cap is to be done by Mystical Power. I don't think it necessarily works like that, but that's the way we go. Now, as I said, it's the Henderson form that worries me. We know about the problem with Constitution Hill coming out. We'll cover that off again. There's been rumours about Sergino. He had something like 6 out of 10 horses pulled up. He hasn't really had a runner in the last week. And, you know, there is that cloud, I suppose you'd say, over the yard. Who knows? But if there isn't a problem and it's a lot of media talk, Jericho de Repenay is massive, I think, at 9-1. He won his Group 2 latest, but what I liked about it was the comments afterwards, because funnily enough, I watched the race at the time and only turned on a halfway, and up the home straight I thought, God, he jumped well. But afterwards, Nico de Boinville basically said he went that slow early on, he thought he was having a schooling round, so he was just a bit novice-y, for want of a word. Nothing wrong, he just didn't get into any great rhythm as he went a crawl. But when they quickened it up about 5 furlongs from home, they said he said, I saw it myself, he winged every flight, and in between each flight of hurdles he was gaining 2 and 3 lengths. Really, really taken. What also gets me on this one as well is Nicky Henderson always sticks with the tried and tested, and this horse has gone an unbelievably similar route to Altior and Sprinter Sacra, who, well, they don't need any introductions, 2 legends of the game, won this race, a winner of this race. And, you know, you've got to think if he's following that same route, then, you know, you've got to think something of it. Equally, I would say this, Mystical Power was entered in several races as well. But I find it interesting, JP McManus has double-handed in his colours here with Mystical Power and Jericho de Repenay. So I'm hoping that means, you know, he's thinking, well, they've both got a really good chance here. Because it would have been very easy to leave Jericho in here and up Mystical Power, I guess, but they didn't do that. So it's a very tight race, but I'm just, after day one, we're going to know the state of Nicky Henderson's yard. That's fairly certain, I would say. But for this, we're going with Jericho de Repenay. I think 9-1's a great each-way bet with many bookmakers paying top 4. And I'm going for, hopefully, one for the English to start. 1, 2, 3 for the Supreme Novice Hurdle, Jericho de Repenay from Mystical Power and Tully Hill. The 2:10 is the Arkle Novices Chase. It's a grade 1 over 2 mile, and I might be proven wrong, but I've got a feeling this is one of the weakest Arkles we've seen for a while. Last year, if you look at my video from the Arkle last year, there was obviously John Bon and El Fabiolo. I picked the wrong one, as always. Not always, but quite often. And I said, these are 2 potential superstar horses, these. I'm going through this field, and I don't think there's one in here this year, to be honest with you. I could be proven wrong, let alone 2. But we've got to go and play the game anyway. The favourite is Gaelic Warrior for Willie Mullins and Paul Townend. And I must be honest, I'm slightly surprised that they have gone for this race with Gaelic Warrior. He cost us a couple of years ago, made his debut, funny enough, at Cheltenham, got caught on the line by a horse called Brazil over hurdles. He proved himself to be a very, very good hurdler in the long run. Taken well to chasing, but his jumping for me is at sometimes a bit ragged. Now, his best form for me was over further. So my feeling was he was going to go for the 2.5 mile. It was what I was thinking. What's that? Is that the Turners? I can't remember, to be honest with you. Or I thought he was going to go for like the 2.5 mile novice chase, but instead they've come to 2 mile. He's a very, very good horse, and Willie Mullins knows a lot more about this game than I do. But that did surprise me, and 5-2 seems awfully short. The enigma for me in here is Quilixios for Henry de Bromhead and Rachel Blackmore. Very, very talented in bumpers and hurdles, incredibly talented, and he's done very well over chasing, winning 2 from 3. My only concern I've got on this is not just over fences, but over fences, hurdles, bumper, whatever you want. His overall form is a bit hit and miss. Like, even when he's been beaten but run okay, watching the races, you'd expect him to do more, and he hasn't done it, and that does worry me. Now, about 2 months ago, this horse was around 14-1, and I thought that's a good each way price. He's currently now around 5-1, and that's plenty short enough, because I think he's probably the class horse of the race. But I've always got that nagging doubt. Is he just going to go, nah, it's not a going day today? Who knows? One I don't fancy, and he's been at the head of the market all the way along this year, is Il Était Temps for Willie Mullins, with Danny Mullins taking the ride. Now, he beat Founder 50, who we'll get to in a minute, in a Grade 1 on his latest at Leopardstown. But for me, this horse, one, isn't the greatest jumper I've ever seen. And secondly, he all the way through his career, he's got this tendency to jump right. Not more so, shall I say, than at the course this time last year. He's run here twice and run bad both times. And on one of them, the description from the yard was he went right-handed. Now, even at Leopardstown, he went right-handed, and that is a big worry for a relatively short-price horse. Now, as I said, he beat Founder 50, who reopposes here. Gordon Elliott, Jack Kennedy taking the ride. He's got a very close form line with Il Était Temps. And he's another one who's got a tendency to jump right. It's strange. Now, what we've got to think of is, sometimes with horses, if one jumps to one side, the other one does it. But both of these have shown a trait of jumping right in the past, which is a concern. So I suppose you'd say my concern is, even though Founder 50 won a Grade 1, I'm a bit concerned about that. And if that is the case, how good the form is against potentially more better jumpers in this field. Willie Mullins, as I said, he's mob-handed in this. He's also got one I really fancy, which is Hunter's Yarn. Daryl Jacob takes the ride because it's Isaac Munir owns, so the two-tone green, so he is the retained rider. He's had 2 chase starts, not ideally, fell on the first one, but he had jumped well in the main to that point and was well clear, would have won, came down. Can happen, but he was very, very good in his latest one. He was foot perfect and quickened away well between 2 and 1 out and stayed on through the line. My slight concern is he was going to be the selection, because I know there's more to come from him. My slight concern is he's never run above a beginner's chase before, so there's more to come. He could be anything, but you know, until they're tested, it's hard to know. So I'm actually taking another flyer on a 9-1 here. Imagine if those two came in, Jericho and the selection here, both 9-1 in the first 2 races, would be made for the week. My selection, I'm actually going for a homegrown winner, and I'm going for JPR1 for Joe Tizard, Brendan Powell taking the ride. He's 2 for 4 over fences. He should be 3, because at the start of the season, he was running over course and distance, had jumped amazing, taken it, or joined the leader 2 out, went on, was well in control at the last and fell, but it was a strange fall where he landed and just kind of took a step and went again. It's one of those 9 times out of 10 they kind of find the feet again and the way they go. On this occasion, he came down. I think you can ignore his defeat, even though he ran well for a long way at the Henry VIII, because that came quite quick after a run before, and he did say he ideally needs a good few weeks between his runs, which they've done now. He was very, very good last time out at Lingfield. And what I liked about this is I think they got a bit of education into him, especially as Lingfield has got a bit of an undulating course. They come up the hill around the side, down, round the bend and back up to the finish. So I'm not saying it's anything like Cheltenham with that hill, but a bit of an undulating track. It's good experience. I backed it that day and I remember it was a hell of a price. I think it was around 4-1. And what I remember saying is like 3 out, go for it, because he was travelling all over him. But they kept hold of him, took it at the last, got him into almost a bit of a battle, and then he pulled clear in the end and did it really, really well. So I remember at the time thinking there's plenty more to come here. He's had about 6 weeks off, I believe now, since that last run. I know the yard fancy him. He goes in pretty much any ground, but he usually travels very, very well, and that's what you need. And generally, apart from the time he fell here, which I suppose you're going, God, is he going to have a lasting memory of that? He, in the main, jumps really well. And while the head of the market is so competitive, I think JPR1 is a great each-way price at 9s. 1, 2, 3 for the Arkle, JPR1 from Hunter's Yard. And I'm going to put Gaelic Warrior in there because, as I said, Willie Mullins is a much wiser man than I am, as they say. Got a family notes here. Here we go. So next up, we've got the 250, which is the Ultima Handicap Chase over 3 mile 1. It's a Group 3. I'm a bit gutted on this. I quite fancied a horse called Giovinco for Lucinda Russell. I thought that looks the ideal type for the Ultima Handicap, but now it seems that one's going for the Brown Advisory, formerly the RSA. I understand why that one, which we'll cover tomorrow in day 2 video, has only got 7 declared. So they're probably thinking, well, we could pick up better prize money rather than a big competitive field. He wasn't going to be my selection anyway, which was quite good, but I would have been doing some type of bet on him at around 14-1. We'll kick off with Trelawney, and I'll tell you the reason for it is this horse has been for quite a bit of money, currently into around 7-1. Harry Cobden rides for Kim Bailey, which is quite a telling book in that one, really. This horse is improving all the time, generally jumps well. The 3 mile trip, 3 mile 1 with this hill should be fine. And I think everything's set for a great race. My problem I've got is, well, it's not a problem. I'm happy because those who have followed me on WhatsApp on different ones know this has been my selection on this since Christmas. My selection in this race is also trained by Kim Bailey, and David Bass has picked this horse. Now, while Harry Cobden's probably going to be champion jockey, David Bass, whatever way you look at it, is the jockey for the Kim Bailey stable. So he would have had the choice between Trelawney and the selection. And the selection is Chianti Classico. This is the perfect, absolute ideal profile for an Ultima winner based on trends, based on how he runs, everything. And it's a similar comment to when I tipped up Corrick Rambler a few years ago and he won. This horse reminds me of him in so many ways. He's got a lovely weight here, which is ideal. People are saying, will he go on the soft? I think he will, and I think that's why he's still, God, it's 9-1 again. God, 3 9-1s in a row. I think he'll be okay on the soft because on breeding, he's sired by Shantu. Now, Shantu have had the likes of your Shantu Flyers and other ones in the past who all went on soft. Shantu horses generally will go on soft. He's a novice, and novices have a great record in this race. And what I liked is he's relatively lightly raced. A couple of times, you could argue, has he failed to deceive when he's travelled well, coming up to 2 out, and then just not getting there. But they've all been on like flat tracks around the likes of your Kemptons and your Ascots and stuff, which are more speed tracks. And this is a proper staying horse, I think. He's got a bit of toe, but I think he stays really well, and he's ideal for this race. And I've had him from about 18s and 16s, bit at 14s, now into 9s. So I'm happy with him as a selection. I feel the main danger is actually going to be Stumptown for Gavin Cromwell. Keith Donoghue taking the ride. He's obviously a course and distance winner on, I think it was New Year's Day at Cheltenham. Now, thing about this horse is he's very hit and miss until he comes to Cheltenham. He had done nothing this season, went to Cheltenham with headgear on, which is a different ball game, found his old form. Last year, narrowly went down in the Kim Muir, where the leader just, in the amateur riders race, the leader got away, and he was the only one closing. He stays all day. And he's got a nice weight because, as I said, he doesn't do a great deal, it seems, nowadays away from Cheltenham. And Stumptown currently around 11-1. I wouldn't discourage anyone from doing it. A lot of bookmakers paying top 5 or even 6 in this one. And all things being equal, he must have a great each way shout on those terms. The very short price favourite, 4-1 now, is Meeting of the Waters for Willie Mullins. Now, Mark Walsh has taken the ride because JP McManus bought this for a pretty penny about a week ago or so now. Hasn't had the ideal preparation, unseated at the first last time out. I think it was at the Dublin Racing Festival. Far from ideal. But he had very, very solid form before. Got a nice weight. My biggest concern I've got here is the ground. Now, if you go on the Racing Post or Timeform, look back on it. They tell you when the horse is an on-runner. This horse has been whipped out 3 times due to ground being too soft or heavy. It's going to be soft ground tomorrow on day one. I'm fairly certain it's soft now. There's a bit of rain in the area, I found out this morning. So when he was about 10-1, you could argue it's worth a punt on it. 4-1. I'm not saying he won't go on soft, but I find it a bit strange. They've been whipping him out on soft all the way through, and now they're going to run him on it. I think the value's gone up 4-1. Now, another enigma in here is the Goffer for Gordon Elliott, Jack Kennedy taking the ride. This horse is only 3 from 18 over fences, which is a shocking record. He's been off since October. So I don't know if there's been an injury, or I don't know if they were trying to keep him fresh for this. If they're keeping him fresh, this could be a handicap blot where, you know, it's, oh, he's not running well, tumble down the weights, keep him fresh, go for this race. But as I say, I'm a student of form, and at around 7-1, I think there's risks attached with him. He could go and run in easily, but I think there's risks attached to him at 7-1 now the value's gone. So 1, 2, 3 for the Ultima Handicap Chase, Chianti Classico from Stumptown and Trelawney, which moves us on to the 3:30, which is technically the big race of day one, the Champion Hurdle. It's a grade 1 over 2 mile. Unfortunately, this race has lost a massive, well, it's lost virtually all of its edge with the sad news, Constitution Hill. The unbeaten Constitution Hill will not be defending his crown. A few weeks ago, it turned into a right soap opera, didn't it? Where he was, well, actually, it's been an opera over the last 5 weeks. He was meant to run at Cheltenham on trials day. Then he had a bad scope. Then there was the rumours he's going to miss Cheltenham Festival. Then it was he's over his scope. Then 2 weeks later, he had that gallop and where he got battered by Sergino and another one, and there was something not quite right. Then it turned out he had scoped bad again, and you're thinking, how have you scoped bad twice in 4 weeks? It's like a bit crazy. Then his blood work wasn't right, but we are where we are. He isn't running. What I would say is, though, I've watched that video, and if anyone wants a clip of the video of that gallop, I've got it. And I'm not concerned about him getting beat. What I'm more concerned about with Constitution Hill was, for me, he made a noise, and it's a noise, and it's not a noise associated with like mucus or anything like that. I think he's got a breathing issue. I don't know how, you know what, I'm no vet, but I've been around enough horses. I've seen enough things to go, something doesn't sound right. Listen to the first 2 coming home, listen to him. And for me, it sounded like he needs a wind operation, but we'll see if that comes off. If it is, I'm giving myself a right pat on the back. But we are where we are, and this is what we've got. And to be honest, bar the front 2 in the market who were graded horses, it's graded horses against a load of handicappers, to be honest with you, which is a shame for a race of this standard. We'll start with the handicappers who might go well. Not So Sleepy, Huey Morrison, Sean Bowen takes the ride. He has won, I think he won a... Yeah, he won a Fighting Fifth many years ago, but generally very hit and miss. And whenever he's running the Grade 1 races in recent times, it's pretty much been to try and pick up whatever bits of prize money he can get. This is a lot harder than even what he's been running in, and it would take a big shout for him to do anything, to be honest with you. The interesting handicapper, I suppose, is Iberico Lord, Nicky Henderson, Nico de Boinville, because he's been supplemented for £20,000 to enter this race. He obviously won the Betfair Hurdle really, really well last time, and he's a proven handicapper. Now, he's been supplemented, but he's only realistically got to come in the first 4 to get that money back, and JP McManus didn't have a runner in the race, neither did Nicky Henderson, of note, after Constitution Hill came out. So I wonder if they come up with an arrangement between them where they've gone, yeah, go on, let's have a runner, so let's throw him in, basically. But on all, he could improve this one because he's a young horse. On all known form, he hasn't got a chance, but he needs to improve. Now, State Man's the obvious favourite. He's a previous county hurdle winner, came second in this race last year, got absolutely demolished by Constitution Hill, but everyone does. face facts, that's the way it is. Paul Town rides for him. Second in this last year, as I said, won the county. 3 for 3 this year, won all of the important trial races in Ireland. And currently at 1 to 3, there's no value. He's impossible to oppose, to be honest with you. But he does have a real good rival in Irish Point for me, which is Gordon Elliott, Jack Kennedy taking the ride. Like, Irish Point is a 2-time Group 1 winner, a 2-time Grade 3 winner, and a 3-time Grade 1 placed horse. So you're talking there, what's that? 7 group races winning or placing. He's no mug, I'll tell you that now. Now, he stays 3 mile, and he was right at the head of the market with his stablemate T Hoopo for the Stayers Hurdle. And obviously, they've decided to reroute him here. But what I would say is his 2 mile form is very, very solid. Now, there was one run last season, like before Christmas last year, so we're talking November 2022, when he only got beaten a quarter of a length by Marine Nationale, who went on to absolutely hose up in the Supreme Novice and looked a very decent chaser before, obviously, he got injured clearly at Leopardstown. And then, okay, it wasn't until a few weeks afterwards, oh, he's injured and he's out, but it was clear he was hurt at Leopardstown. So that is an exceptional horse. Irish Point, with a guaranteed stamina like he's got, he is a very, very worthwhile opponent, currently around 5 to 1. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to back, just purely to back something, Irish Point each way. Top 3. I know it's a sleazeball bet, but I can't see him not coming in the top 3. And if something happens to the favourite, okay. But in terms of giving you the 1, 2, 3, 1 to 3 isn't value, but I still need to call it how I see it. And unless you're going to put a fortune on State Man, then you know, I'm going to look for a bit of value in that race. But for the 1, 2, 3, I'm going with State Man from Irish Point and Iberico Lord. Which brings us on to the 4:10, which is the David Nicholson Mears Hurdle, 2 mile 4, Group 1. Again, this race lacks a certain amount of depth, I would say, purely because the front 2 in the market look very, very strong. I'll cover the ones who are big prices, who could run quite well for someone. Starting, funny enough, with Nikki Henderson again. Marie's Rock, Nico de Boinville takes the ride. She won this race in 2022. Been a bit off form, but came back and won a 3 mile Group 2 latest, or Grade 2 latest. 2 mile 4 here, I said, previous winner, clearly stays 3, is of no consequence to her. It's just, was that a one-off return? And it was a relatively weak Grade 2, I would say. It was relatively weak. And I would say this, on the balance, she has a lot to find with the heads of the market. But big price, 16 to 1, could run a good each way race. I'll be interested with an odds-on favourite what the bookies might do in terms of extra places and stuff here. Gala Marceau for Willie Mullins. Danny Mullins takes the ride. Actually beat the odds-on favourite here last season and run with credit at the festival last year and other races. However, her overall form this year has been really poor and would have to bounce back. Can she do it? Of course, but a balance of probability on a form this year, she's got a lot to find. Echoes in Rain, I thought they would have gone to the champion hurdle with her, you know, and picked up some prize money. Instead, they haven't. They're going for the Mears. Brian Hayes takes the ride. Came 4th in this race last year, but for me, I don't think she fully saw out the trip. I thought she ran a great race, but without fully seeing it out. That's why I'm slightly surprised they've come back for more, if I'm being honest. But anything Willie Mullins turns out, you've got to respect it. It's as simple as that. Love Envoi won the Mears Novices 2 years ago and played a part in history last year, coming second to the retiring Honeysuckle, who I believe is in fall now. So we're going to see Honeysuckle's children in a few years' time, hopefully run at the festival. One thing with this horse, loves soft ground, clearly has a liking for Cheltenham. But what I would say is, in the Fighting Fifth, I think it was it the Fighting Fifth this year, and the International, which, okay, it's over shorter trips, came second, run well, but well beaten in both. But I think this 2.5 mile on soft is more her trip. So she's a big price at double figures, I think, at the moment. I think that one for Harry Fry and Johnny Burke, I think Love Envoi could hit the frame. But I think the race is going to come down, like it's done so many times over the years, between the two Paul Nicholls horses. And I think Lossie Mac. See, my heart was torn here. Last year, those who followed me in the lead up to the festival, I was really keen on Ash Road Diamond last year. And everything was ready. I thought, yeah, she's a very good bet in this Mears race. And then she got injured like a week beforehand and didn't run, and I was absolutely gutted. She's another year older now, but I think, unfortunately for her, I think Lossie Mouth is potentially very, very special horse. But on Ash Road Diamond, nothing to put people off. Patrick Mullins takes the ride for Willie Mullins, obviously. Brilliant winner at Doncaster latest, travelled really well, powered away, and there's nothing to say bad about it. Multiple group graded winner, never been out the top four in her entire career, ultra consistent. She's a magnificent horse, but Lossie Mouth, especially in the international she won last time, that was a phenomenal performance after almost a year out. She obviously won the Triumph really, really well last year, which I was happy with. As I said, has only had 2 runs since then. Went to Punchestown afterwards, won easily there again, and then had been off until January. I don't know if it's by design. I would imagine it would be, because she does seem to do well in the spring. But that international, it was like she joined in on the bridle at the bottom of the hill and just jumped the last and just powered away. People are saying, will she get 2 mile 4? She looked like she could get 3 mile the way she travelled. She's very quick over her hurdles, and that was a solid a renewal of the international, and nothing could get her off the bridle. So she's got that feeling to me of like an Annie Power. Now, I'm surprised, again, they didn't. Well, I am and I'm not. I'm surprised Rich Ritchie didn't go, after Constitutional Hale came out, I want to go to the Champion Hurdle. But Willie Mullins had State Man in there. I don't know if he pulled rank and says, no, I want to win. Bear in mind, Willie Mullins gets 6 more. He's got 100 festival winners. I wonder if Willie pulled rank and said, no, I want winners in every race, so I want her in there. But Lossie Mouth, I think she's a potential future superstar. And I know she's only 8 to 11. I think that's not a bad price, even for odds on. She's impossible to oppose. 1, 2, 3 then for the Mears Hurdle. Lossie Mouth from Ash Road Diamond and Love Envoi. Which brings me to a race I'm not particularly keen on. It's a really tough race, even though I do have a good record of winning place in it, which is always the way. And that is the 4-year-old race at 450, which is the Boodles Juvenile Handicap Hurdle. It's a grade 3 for 4-year-olds, over 2 miles. I'll go for the honourable mentions first. Nadawi for Gordon Elliott and Jack Kennedy. 1 for 3 over hurdles, and has tight form with a horse who we're going to get onto next, called Lark in the Morning, based on a run in Fairy House. So at 16 to 1, this horse could run a good race. Now, Lark in the Morning has been battered all winter for this race, and I do think there's an element of the value has gone out of this one. It's Joseph O'Brien trained. JJ Slevin takes the ride. Has only ever had 3 hurdles runs. Doesn't really matter in the Boodles, to be honest. And this horse has never won, which I suppose is a concern. Gets in off 11 stone as a result, so that's why I wonder if people are thinking they're not fully going for it to get in on there, get some experience, and then gets a nice weight pull. This is another horse that's avoided very soft and heavy ground like the plague all winter, so if it was too soft, it would be a concern. The price is well and truly gone on this one now. I think it seems destined to run well. Joseph O'Brien's another one for handicap plots. But I do have a concern over the ground. Now, Eagle Fang is currently 20 to 1. Will Durkin trains it. Philip Enright rides. Only 1 from 5 over hurdles, but has been placed in 3 out of 4 of the others, including in a Group 3, which is very, very solid form. Now, this horse loves soft and performed, which is a key one, in a race where 4 out the last 5 winners have won en route to here. So Eagle Fang potentially could be overpriced, I think, at 20 to 1. Though on balance of form where you've only won 1 in 5, if you have got experience, I'd rather go for something that's run a little bit less but has kind of proven it at this moment. I know they have more weight, but as I said, student form, like it. Now, this was a very difficult pick for my number one pick here, but I'm going to be having a saver on this one, who isn't the pick, because I think this one is destined for a good run. And this is Liari for Paul Nicholls. Harry Cobden takes the ride. She's 3 from 3 over hurdles. Very, very classy. She looks gorgeous, the horse. She looks a brilliant horse. I think she's definitely one to go further and maybe even go over fences in the future. Big, strong horse, Liari. Has won on all ground, from soft to heavy to good ground. So very, very ground, ground friendly, can go on anything. Is a 2 times listed winner already in those 3 starts. So that's solid form. And Paul Nicholls, while he hasn't won this race, I think, for 7 or 8 years, whatever he sends for it does seem to run well. Now, the interesting one is Liari had some other entries this week in a lot richer races, and Paul Nicholls has picked this, currently around 11 to 1. I'm having something on this one because most are paying top 5. And even though she's got top weight here, effectively, I think Liari's got that little element of class. And if it was levels, she would have been the pick. However, Milan Tino is coming over from France. George and Zetterholm trained. John Joe O'Neill Jr. taking the ride. JP McManus owned. There was a comment I heard 3 weeks ago, and when I looked into it, I thought, God, they're right. She actually came over and ran really, really well at the course in the International. I think it was not that long ago, a few months ago. Now, they said the plan was never, ever to come back for the Cheltenham Festival this year, but next year for the Champion Hurdle, they've even mentioned, which I thought, okay, well, that sounds quite promising. And then they were actually targeting the whatever it's called, Auteuil in May. And they said, when we found out on the revised handicapper, she's 1 stone 3 pound. She's rated 1 stone 3 pound less in England than France. They said we couldn't not go. We had to run at it. And I think she's very good. I think the run she did last time is potentially in better company than this. And if what they say there is over a stone off the French handicapper, it seems like a proper plot horse, this. Currently around 7 to 1. I'm happy to play that one, because I think it looks destined to a good run and has a bit of course form as well, which I like. 1, 2, 3 for the Boodles then. Milantino from Liari. And do you know what? I'm actually going to put Eagle Fang in there because I think he's overpriced at 20 to 1. Which brings us on to the concluding race of day 1, which is the 5:30, which is this year, rightly, and I'm delighted they've done it, named it the Maureen Mullins National Hunt Chase. It's a Grade 2 novices chase for amateur riders, now over 3 miles 6, used to be over 4 miles. I'm delighted they named it after Maureen Mullins. If people who didn't know, she was the mother of Willie Mullins, and she sadly passed away a few weeks ago. It was amazing watching it watching it. She seems to have been, God, a staple of behind the scenes of national hunt racing in Ireland for decades. Was really well respected, and I think it's really nice touch from Cheltenham to name a race after her. And my selection here, and again, those who follow me on WhatsApp message me throughout the year, this has been my selection for about 4 months. So it's nice when a plan comes together, is actually trained by Maureen Mullins' son, Willie Mullins, and I would love it for the family for him to win this one, more than any race on day 1, really. And that is Embassy Garden. Patrick Mullins, he's an amateur, takes the ride, but he's better than most real jockeys, we'll call them, or, the professional jockeys. 2 runs this season, kept fresh, 2 from 2, including over 3 mile 1 on heavy latest run. Jumped well, very strong at the finish, pulled away at the finish. I think the trip should be absolutely fine. He's following a very similar route to a horse he had about 10 years ago. We were tipped up on this, called Back in Focus. Willie's got a great record in the race. He's a superb record in the race. This horse is lightly raced. It fits the profile. He'll go on the ground. And I think, even though it's close between the top 2 in the market, I just think it's going to come down to who stays best, and I think he will. The favourites are currently at 5 to 4 is Corbett's Cross for Emmett Mullins. Keeping it in the family or what? Derek O'Connor, another superb amateur, taking the ride. You'll remember the heartbreak we all had, those who followed me last year in the Ballymore. I tipped this one up, strongly fancied it, was a closing length down at the last. I think he was coming there to win it and then decided to run out and run through the wings of the fence. Why he did it, I still to this day don't know. After that, he's gone over fences. He's only won 1 from 4 and he fell on his latest, which is not the ideal prep. I get the impression this more extreme trip should suit, because I think the faster they're going, his jumping comes under pressure. And what could be interesting is he was under pressure and staying on when he ran out last time. Is he one of those horses that just kind of loses his head a bit when he's under pressure? You don't know. His jumping hasn't been... He's done nothing wrong, really, over fences. He always runs a solid race. But when he gets to the business end, his jumping goes a bit erratic. So the step up and trip should help him. However, it's going to come down to whoever stays best. And I think Embassy Gardens at 11-4 is a bit better value than Corbett's Cross at 5-4 at this moment. Salvador Ziggy, there's been good money for all week, really. Gordon Elliott trains. R. James takes the ride. He's a good young jockey as well. Done nothing wrong. 3-4 over fences. In a mad build-up. His last run was in the USA, which is... I don't know if that's a good build-up, bad build-up, or just a very, very unorthodox build-up. I think he went for like the USA National, didn't perform there, and that was in October. Clearly been kept fresh for this. My concern I've got is he's never won over 2 mile 5, and this is 3 mile 6. Yes, he could stay the trip, no problem at all, but to suddenly step up by 1 mile and a furlong around Cheltenham with a hill at the finish, that's what slightly tempers my enthusiasm on this one. Apple Away is interesting. Brendan O'Neill takes the ride for Lucinda Russell. This was a Group 1 hurdler, so clearly got a bit of toe and a bit of class about him. Stays 3 miles. And this has pretty much been its only target for a long time in the summer, throughout the winter, sorry. Goes on softish ground, never tried on ground as soft as this. Based on breeding, should get the trip, but for while he was a good hurdler and he's shown consistent form over fences, I just think the form of those shows by the top of the market's just a little bit higher. One who I wouldn't have backed anyone off backing each way if it was top 3, but unfortunately it's only top 2, is Kilbeg King for Anthony Honeyball, Will Biddick taking the ride. He's had 4 chase starts, and has been 2nd or 3rd in all of them. I actually backed him at Ascot last time and I thought he was going to win, and he was just run out of it. But it was over 3 mile 1 in the 3 mile and a bit in the Reynoldstown, which is a very good race. And for me, he just got caught for toe. He got held up, came forward, went very wide, which I wasn't overly happy with that ride. And he just got done for toe at the end. So this step up in trip does look ideal. He was 3rd in the Corto Star as well. Okay, beaten a long way because that French horse, Il France or whatever it's called, was just amazing. I can't believe they haven't brought him over here, by the way, but maybe they want to give him another year. But with Kilbeg King that day, he was there. He dropped back. I thought he was going to get pulled up and then stayed on again. So he does look an out-and-out stayer. Currently around 14-1. As I said, I'm a bit gutted that this one wasn't top 3. I would have had a bit of a saver on him, I think. But I do think he's going to run a big race. But for the win, I'm happy to go with the Willie Mullins trained Embassy Garden. I think what I like about this as well is he hasn't been multiple entered. This has been his entry for a long time, so they've clearly earmarked it. They've only given him a couple of spins over fences this year. They've kept him fresh, and I think it's going to be one to remember for the Mullins team. 1, 2, 3 then for the finale of day 1, the National Hunt Chase, Embassy Gardens from Corbett's Cross and Kilbeg King. Hope you found that good. Hope you've enjoyed watching. Check back in for day 2 tomorrow. As always, any questions or you want to let me know what you're doing, glad to hear it, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, guys. Bye.